Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome. My name is Alisa Sladzinska, and I work for the City of Chicago Department of Business Affairs and Consumer Protection, BACP. Welcome to the BACP Business Education Workshop Webinar Series. We have adapted our regular business education workshops at City Hall into these webinars until further notice. On behalf of our Commissioner, Rosa Escarino, I want to inform you that business licenses can be processed online where applicable by visiting chicagobusinessdirect.org. And just note that any websites or emails I mention will be posted in the chat box. If you are part of the BACP Entrepreneur Certificate Program, you can get credit for joining this webinar by sending an email to bacpoutreach@cityofchicago.org. If you want to learn about the program, please visit chicago.gov/business-education. To help guide your business and employees during Chicago's reopening process, please visit chicago.gov/reopening. BACP will be hosting a webinar tomorrow at 1 p.m. called Navigating Chicago's Plan for Safely Easing COVID-19 Regulations. You could register for the webinar the same way you did this one by going to chicago.gov/business-education. Also, BACP and the City of Chicago's Office of Emergency Management and Communications created Shy Biz Emergency Alerts. You can opt in to receive targeted emergency alerts for the business community. If you are interested, please visit chicago.gov/Shy Biz Alerts. Once again, all that information will be posted in the chat box, so you'll be able to reference it there. And we encourage attendees to ask questions. Please use the chat box and send your questions to all panelists. There will be a question and answer session at the end of the presentation. And today's webinar will be capital coaching and collaboration for small businesses, presented by Allies for Community Business. And with us today, we have Brad Mcconnell. Welcome, Brad.
Thank you very much. And thank you for the whole of the Department of Business Affairs and Consumer Protection, who continues to do really good work on behalf of all the small businesses that we seek to serve throughout the city of Chicago. So my name is Brad McConnell, and I'm the CEO of Allies for Community Business, which was formerly called Accion Chicago. We changed our brand, our service delivery model, and a number of other things 2.5 weeks ago in an effort to do more and better for the businesses that we exist to serve. So rather than do a PowerPoint presentation today, because my guess is that all of you have seen more than your fair share of those over the last 10 months, instead, I'm going to provide as a visual reference for you our site that's been newly constructed as a way to help just give you the way to follow visually what I'm going to describe verbally on the services that are available to you as small businesses that we provide or that our partners provide. And I'll cover both as we go through this. So I'm going to try to keep my introductory comments to 20 minutes flat so that we have all the rest of the time to specifically answer your questions and take the conversation in whatever direction you would like. So I want to start with our mission, which is, as just heard a second ago, it's to provide the capital and the coaching and collaboration that entrepreneurs need to grow great businesses in their community. Our vision is that any entrepreneur of any background can start and grow a great business that creates generational wealth for their families and for their communities. But everybody needs a little help now and again. And so our mission here is to help. So talk through these services and how best we can work with you to help grow your business. So you'll see that the services are grouped up as the mission suggests into capital, into coaching, collaboration. We're going to start with capital. So Loans and grants, as we move to looking at the entirety of our services, we provide loans and grants, and I'll talk about each one of those in turn. And then coaching, we provide both one-on-one and group coaching. And then we have 3 collaborative services that we work with in partnership with others for food and beverage businesses, for any business in the city of Chicago who's interested in licensing, and for businesses who are interested in working as a minority-owned business or a women-owned business, using that certification in order to get connected to contract opportunities. We'll come back to all of those in turn. So let's start with the capital, and we'll start particularly with loans. So what I'm going to describe here briefly is our approach to providing loans to small businesses that typical financial institutions don't provide because the credit box that they use is too tight for the purposes of providing the capital that they're looking for in many cases. So our view is that between $500 and $100,000, businesses that meet a few simple criteria are worth the risk. And so we'd like to work with you to invest in your business in order to help you grow it. And I'm just going to describe very briefly how we think about this so as you evaluate your own capital needs, you'll understand whether this is a viable option for you. So to understand whether you qualify for a loan or not, first, think about whether you're interested in loans that are $25,000 or less, or between $25,000 and $100,000. For $25,000 and less, we're really evaluating you as a business owner more than we're evaluating the business per se in our first step, 3 steps that we follow. So let me describe that for you. Step 1 in our process, and this, by the way, word for word is our credit policy, which in order to be highly transparent as a mission-focused community development financial institution based on the west side of Chicago in Fairfield Park, our belief is that you should know exactly what we know about how we're going to evaluate your credit. So we'll put every word of it on our website. When you're applying for $25,000 or less, we're looking at 3 things, and we're pulling it all from your credit report after you spend somewhere between 5 and 7 minutes providing us with just the basic information we require in order to get an application started for you. 3 questions are as follows. You can see them all on the screen. For the past 24 months, have you avoided bankruptcy and collections larger than $500? For the past 12 months, you paid on time for all of your open credit lines that you have. And today, you have at least 25% availability on all those open credit lines. Those are the only 3 things we're looking at. We pull them all directly from your credit report. Now notice, I didn't say a word about credit scores. We don't care what your credit score is because we just ignore it completely. There's a bunch of reasons for that, but just know that our primary purpose here is focusing on your habits as a business owner and just as an individual who knows how to manage your finances. Meet these 3 criteria, we're moving on to close and fund. And we're going to size that loan based on what you've already proven you can repay over the past 12 months. So we're going to look at on your credit report, and to be specific here, we're going directly to TransUnion in order to pull data in a direct interface to their data straight into our loan origination system. We're looking for the largest amount that you have borrowed and successfully repaid over the last 12 months. We're going to multiply that times 1.5 to give you 50% more than that. And that is the amount up to $25,000 that we will offer you and therefore for you to evaluate whether that's good for your business or not. That's the whole process. That's it. If one of those things doesn't work out and you don't pass those 3 questions, that's okay, because we're going to move then to step 2 of 3 of our process. Step 2 in our process is that we'll look at your financial statements of the business. And so if, say, over the past 24 months, you had 1 or 2 late payments, or right now you don't have that 25% availability on your outstanding credit lines, or the math that we've run for you suggests that the maximum amount you can borrow isn't enough, and you need more for whatever project you're seeking to undertake, then we'll move on to step 2 of the financial statements. And I'll come back to the third of 3 steps in just a moment for a different situation. But for step 2, we're going to give you 3 options in providing us with the information that we require. You can either give us your tax returns, either in the form of just giving us authorization to go pull those from the IRS so you don't have to bother with the gathering of the documents and the uploading. That clearly is the easiest thing to do, and we'll take care of the rest for you. Or if you prefer, you can upload all of your pages, sign documents, such if you have them handy. Either way, Everything we need will be on those tax returns, and we're going to do a calculation called a debt service coverage ratio calculation. And if it is clear to us based on the math that we run that you have an amount that you can borrow that provides you with appropriate coverage, to put it in layman's terms, if it's clear that you're going to be able to handle the debt based on what we see in your tax returns, we'll move to closing and funding. Alternatively, if you're talking about startup here, and you don't have tax returns for the business, or for whatever reason you're not able to produce those, either via giving us rights to go to the IRS on your behalf or via upload of the document. Option B is to provide something similar, but in the form of bank statements. So here, you can either give us rights to go pull your bank data for you by an integration we have with an application called Plaid. You just give us your ID and password to your bank account site, which we never see. It's held by a third party totally securely, but we get read-only rights to just pull your bank account data for you. Or if you prefer, you can download your bank statements and re-upload those to us last 3 months. We're going to do then a little bit of math on that and look at your debt to income ratio to make sure you can afford the loan. And the math we'll do on that is that if debt to income ratio is no more than 0.35, and you don't have more than 3 NSFs, insufficient funds, like you tried to pay for something and didn't, then we're good. Let's move to size of loan and close and fund. Option C, third and finally, is that if for whatever reason, and this is going to be a rare case, you can't provide either tax returns or bank statements, we will do, if you have QuickBooks financial statements, a read of your QuickBooks data by just having you authenticate for us. And we'll pull that and take a look at your financial statements from QuickBooks on your behalf. And then do some math on that debt service coverage ratio and debt to income ratio. And if that passes, then the amount is less because it's kind of weird that you wouldn't have either bank statements or tax returns, but we'll figure it out with you. But up to $12,500, we'll seek to prove that. So again, step one, straight from the credit report. Step two, from tax returns or bank statements or QuickBooks. Any of those, if they just work out in the math that we're doing here, we'll move to provide the funding. If none of that works, and let's say you just got out of bankruptcy or you don't have any open credit lines or anything, that's okay. We'll still work with you under our third of our 3 steps, and that's called a credit builder. In this case, we're simply just going to look at your last 3 personal and business bank statements and do that debt to income ratio you're looking for. As long as everything is current today, that's enough. We'll provide you a loan for up to $2,500 and help you to rebuild the credit that you had issues with that was preventing you from that larger amount over the course of time, and do the smaller loan now and move to do a larger loan later. So that's the whole of the credit policy for loans less than $25,000. You'll note that we didn't talk at all about the use of a credit score because we don't use them. And we also didn't talk at all about the use of collateral because we don't use that anymore either. I don't care how much your house is worth, and I don't care how much your car is worth, like most lenders would. Those things are your personal assets, and we're going to focus instead on just looking at investing in you to help you build your business without regard to what you might add as collateral to a loan application. We just don't do that anymore. Final thing I'll say on the credit policy is just simply that if you're looking for a loan between $25,000 and $100,000, everything I just said applies, except that it's an and. So we do both step 1 and step 2, where we're looking at your credit report and we're looking at your financial statements using the exact same math, exact same processes. You just got to pass both of those 2-step tests, and then we'll size up your loan and move to close and to fund. So that's how we think about lending, which is a lot different than a lot of other places, no doubt. And it's frankly pretty different than what we have done in the past in many respects, although in many other respects, it's quite similar to what we've done for our 27 years of business. But I want to make sure that I can just close this by just talking about price, and then we move on to the other options available to you. So regardless of your risk profile, we don't do risk-based pricing where we charge a lot more to people who have thin credit or whatever it might be. We charge 9% interest, 1% closing fees, that's it. So your APR is under 10%. Our view is that our loans are a little more expensive than bank financing because if you can get a loan from a bank, you should take it. And we'll help you get that if we see in your credit application that you should be eligible for traditional bank financing. So typically those will be in the 5-6% range. We'll charge 9 in order to help to recoup our costs. but we are orders of magnitude underneath the prices that you will typically find if you're talking to an online lender, payday lender, God forbid, where you're talking 50, 60, 70 and more percent interest. That's not who we are and what we do. 9% interest, 1% closing fees, APRs under 10%, always. So that's the way we think about lending on our own book. I will say that we also are helping people to find Paycheck Protection Program loans through our partner CRF. And if there are interest amongst the folks who are here participating in the webinar and talking about that particular process, we'll talk about that too in the Q&A, and I'll go over to the site that we use in order to do that. So to finish up the discussion on the capital we provide, I'm going to go back to the other of the two, which are the grants. So obviously, if there's a grant that's available to you, you should go for it because that's free money you don't have to repay. Every time we have a grant opportunity, we put them all right here. We provided over $360 million in grants to over 20,000 small businesses last year, and we'll look to do as much as we can in partnership with the state, the city, and many counties in 2021 as well. So you'll see here that we're going to list absolutely every grant opportunity we know about. Whether or not we're running those doesn't make a difference to us. We want to make sure that you know that all in one place, everything we hear about, we're going to pop right here. I'll just highlight one of the many that are available now, and that is the Chicago Blackhawks Foundation just last week launched a grant program of $5,000 grants to minority-owned businesses on the west side, similar to where they're based. So just know that if you come back to our site or on our newsletter, which I'm going to do at the end, you'll always hear about every grant that we know about. You want to make sure you have access to those applications so you can get that free money wherever it's possible. So that's how we think about loans and grants. I want to then move to the other services we provide in the form of our coaching. So again, on our services page, you can see the capital and then the coaching. So we'll talk about the one-on-one coaching first. This is always free. So we listen carefully to you and what you're trying to accomplish with your business for a moment that we might be able to help you overcome. And then we'll spend as much time as you'd like, helping you work through whatever it is that's holding back your growth so that to the extent that we can, we're able to help you to create more wealth, create more jobs in the growth of your business as you wish to. So we list off in here the types of activities that we spend time on with clients. And so it depends on where you are in your business as to what types of activities are most likely for us to work on together. But let's say, for example, that you're just getting started. And so therefore, you need to get a pitch, a business plan, a license, insurance, get your bank account open. Those are the kind of things that will work with you to help. Beyond that, then, of course, seeking initial financing, we already talked about that. Creating an action plan on exactly by when, milestone-driven, date-driven, will work with you to accomplish certain things. We can certainly be focusing on as well. For businesses that are much further along, we'll move into kind of further partnership activities here. So things like establishing a key performance indicator dashboard, high quality operations handbook to try to squeeze out as many costs as you possibly can. Think about enhancing your marketing, find those next sales and so forth. And then for really established businesses, then there's a number of other options that we can offer in just helping you continue to grow your business, all the way up to trying to secure the value of your business in the form of a succession plan or a sale or whatever it might be, depending on what you're interested in doing. So just know that we're going to listen first and then work with you depending on where you want to go and whatever way you need it. All of that, again, is free. To do any of that, all you have to do is just click schedule a session on our site. You will immediately be given a calendar that you can just populate based on what time is free for you. That'll directly then integrate with our own staff calendars so that we have locked in time specifically for you for 30 minutes to talk. And then after that, we can schedule as many additional sessions as you want. So that's how we think about one-on-one coaching. I did mention that we also do group coaching. So a bit of it is in the form of the kind of webinars we're doing today. We do a fair number of these. We also have cohort programs like, for example, the Neighborhood Entrepreneurship Lab, where we work with a number of businesses. At the moment, the cohort is 19 businesses over a 9-month period where there's a $20,000 grant, one-on-one partnership with assigned experienced project managers to help you in whatever initiative you're undertaking here within the lab. And we also bring in seasoned executives who have thick Rolodex that they promise that they will open in order to make connections for the entrepreneurs in the lab to get that next sale or to get a better supplier network going or whatever it might be. So all of that is something we do on a cyclical basis. The next lab opens in September. And then finally, I'll highlight the 3 additional services that we provide in collaboration with others, I mentioned. So we start with the Hatchery. The Hatchery is a joint venture of which we own 50%, along with our partner ICNC, which is another mission-driven nonprofit that focuses on small businesses. And we opened the Hatchery in 2019 for food and beverage businesses, whereby there are 54 private kitchens that are leasable by year, as well as bays in our shared kitchen that you can lease by the hour, and then all the storage and loading and moving spaces that you require. We also have several other programs that take place for young people who are looking to become chefs, or for businesses who are looking to grow and who need really high quality workforce. There's opportunities for our Garfield Park neighbors to be able to sell on our plaza and inside the inclement weather, all of which we do in sort of normal times post-pandemic, focusing on building community in East Garfield Park at the corner of Lake and Kedzie, where not only do we own that building as a joint venture, but we also completely relocated our team there. So our entire shop operates out of the Hatchery in our own wing of that building. So I'm looking forward to being back there on a day-to-day basis rather than sporadically like today, once the pandemic concludes. But just know that we're eager to help food and beverage businesses in a number of different ways, depending on what your needs are, inclusive of providing you with your own private kitchen or a shared kitchen space, depending on the price point that's appropriate for you. So if you're interested in any of that, scheduling a session to talk that through this page on our site is the way to do so, and we'll get into the details about your specific business. Secondly, we're also partnering with the city on something called the regional business centers. So the mayor announced this last year, and there's 8 regional business centers that are going to be ready to launch in full in March. And so from the west side, you'll be able to secure the coaching that you need in order to get your license in a way that doesn't require you to go downtown anymore. Now, this will be particularly valuable once the pandemic's ended. We can do this in person, but we'll be providing these services virtually for the time being. Just to give you much more detailed advice about you having to pay for it, because it'll all be free, to make sure you get the license that you need. And then soon we'll also be working on getting you the permits that you need as well. So that's coming next month, and in partnership with the city. Excited about that. If you're not on the west side, by the way, you're on the north side, south side, there are 7 other regional business centers, and you'll have one that will be closest to you. And then finally, the third of those collaborative services that we provide is, as I mentioned, focusing on procurement. So when women-owned business or minority-owned business is seeking to build out that business in more detail by getting certified and then getting connected to institutions who are looking to buy from community businesses, we help in every step of that process. So it could be a city certification, could be a county certification, could be a state of Illinois certification, depends on where you're located. But let's say, for example, you're looking for the city certification. Not only will you be able to use that in order to be a vendor to the city, you'll also be able to use that in places like, say, hospitals on the west side. We have a consortium called West Side United, where we help to connect their buying needs to small businesses who are seeking to supply those services, or the University of Chicago, who we've helped in a number of different ways as well. There's a number of examples like that where we're just trying to connect big dollars of purchasing to small businesses who are ready to provide those, to make sure that that wealth generation stays in our communities as much as possible. So this page kind of gets into some of those details. So those are all the services that we provide. You want to know more about us? No surprise, the About Us page will help you to do that. We also have a bunch of information about our partnerships, but most importantly, I think if you're interested in connecting with us or directly applying for a loan, just going straight to that, you can see here up on the top navigation bar that those are the way to do so. Everything I just described is also in Spanish, if that's your preference. You can use the Spanish link there to toggle over to that. But just know that at any time, if there's information that's useful to you about anything that I just described here, we're eager to provide it. And so scheduling a session with anybody on our team, specifically to work with you and your business, is what we're here for. We're eager to do that. So as I mentioned, I was trying to get through all that in about 20 minutes and did that in, exactly 20 minutes. So I'd like to pause there, talk to questions that you might have, and we'll go into more detail on any of that as you wish. And in particular, as I mentioned, if you want to talk about specifically Paycheck Protection Program loans, that I didn't go into much detail here because we've done so many other webinars about that, I'd be quite happy to talk in more detail about that option as well. So I'm going to pause there and ask for BACP to come back to help with the curation of the questions.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for that overview, Brad. We do have several questions coming in. And for those who want to ask a question, please do so in the chat box and send your questions to all panelists. First question is, when looking at overdraft, is that when it makes your account in the negative, or if checking was low and it pulled from savings, preventing your account to go into negative?
Pulling from savings to go to checking, no problem. All we're looking for here are times in which you overspent the amount of money you actually had in all of your accounts combined, and therefore you went into the negative on your base checking account, which then triggered not sufficient funds problem.
Can a non-citizen apply for a loan or grant?
Absolutely. So we will lend on the basis of an ITIN just as easily as we can lend on the basis of a social security number or an EIN, a tax employer identification number. So particularly if we're talking about the lending that we do directly in our own services, that's absolutely true. The only caveat to that for programs where we are serving as the program administrator on behalf of another partner, and this is particularly true if we're using like federal stimulus dollars or recovery dollars that flow through, say, a state or county or city government. If those dollars have associated with them some sort of restriction on who is eligible for those, then we have to abide by that legally, but that's the exception. Our work is very much focused on trying to provide those who otherwise struggle to access to capital, and therefore we absolutely will work with those who are undocumented or partially documented, as the case may be.
What are the options for someone looking to get startup funding who is in active Chapter 13 bankruptcy repayment plan?
If you're currently in a repayment plan right now, what we would offer is free coaching to get ready for a business so that the minute that the case is finished and you're no longer in active Chapter 13, you're ready to go. And so I think while you're in bankruptcy, there are legal prohibitions against taking on more debt that we would have to abide by. And so we try to be careful to not cross the legal constraints that the bankruptcy code imposes. But the minute that you're out of that, then particularly for our credit builder offering, where the whole point of that is to help people immediately now start to rebuild a positive credit profile, we'd be eager to help essentially the day after the case closes.
Is the one-on-one counseling in person or remote?
During the pandemic, it's remote. And so we do all of that live on screen wherever we can so that it's a personal interaction. We can do it over the phone if that's the preference for small business owner, but our preference very much is to use Zoom or Teams or whatever other service you might prefer. Once the pandemic is complete, then we'll absolutely go back to what we've long done, which is to offer that coaching in person at our site on the west side in East Northfield Park. And so even at that time, for those who might be running a business that is such that it's hard for you to get away and get over to the west side in person, we will certainly still continue to provide virtual coaching if that's the preference of the small business owner. But right now we have all virtual. We will soon move to whatever's better for the small business owner as soon as we're able to do that through the social distancing guidelines that the city continues to promote.
Do you have any veteran startup loans or grants for businesses?
Good question. The grant programs are always going to come and go, and so it just depends on what is available at a given time with an application deadline associated with it. So it'll just depend on the partners that we're working with to identify a particular priority for veteran-owned businesses. And so just keep either on our newsletter, or because we'll always highlight all new grant opportunities via newsletter, or keep our grants page bookmarked to check in on from time to time to see if there are any particularly targeted grants in that way for veterans. For our lending, we absolutely would lend to a veteran business in the exact same way we would do for a non-veteran business, and therefore, I think the answer is certainly yes, even though it's not a standalone sort of carve-out program. We view that as very much core to what we try to do all day, every day, and therefore we love to help any business owner who happens to also serve the country.
What loans are available for funding for inventory, insurance, rent, and equipment?
Yeah, so we think about that in terms of working capital mostly, although it's not technically true if you're doing inventory in a way that's buying like a fixed asset or something like that, which may or may not be sort of in the classic vein of inventory. Either way, we're eager to help in doing the financing that you require for those types of uses. And so I think if you're looking to have, let's say, a combination of a fee that you need to cover for your license or insurance, plus inventory replenishment, plus a couple other things, whatever it might be, when we're doing an evaluation of your financials, we will just sort of tally all that up and make sure that you're able to cover the monthly costs that you'd be incurring for the repayment of the loan. All of that is only if you're looking for either more than $25,000, where, as I said, you do both the credit test step 1 and the financial step test 2, or you're looking for less than $25,000 and you don't pass that first step 1 3-part credit test. Because again, as a reminder, we don't even ask what uses you're going to be deploying those funds for if you pass our credit test step 1 for loans under $25,000, because we're investing in you as a business owner based on your proven track record of being responsible in repayment for existing debts. And so therefore, we're going to ask out of curiosity because that's part of our coaching, which we follow up on with you. Again, all of that's free. But we're going to trust you to use your funds in a really effective manner that allow you to grow your business and also to repay your loan on time to us. And so it just depends on how much you're looking for and which step of our loan process succeed through as to how much detail we'll get into there before the loan is dispersed.
Do the services, grants, loans, and coaching, et cetera, include new companies registered, let's say, May 2020?
Yes. So we serve in our coaching, our free coaching, anybody who has even just an idea, all the way through to somebody who's been running a successful business for 40 years. So no problem there whatsoever. For the lending that we're doing, we absolutely lend to people who are looking to start up a company. And again, that's up to $25,000 for startups that we're focusing on, whereby we don't require you to have a financial track record for the business in order to qualify for the loan, because obviously that immediately means that startups aren't eligible. Now, north of $25,000, we're talking about $25,000 to $100,000, yes, we're looking to make sure that you have a track record of success in that business, and we're looking at the financials in that business. But for a startup loan, in order to get your business going, less than $25,000, we're evaluating you as the business owner as to whether we think that you're a good risk to repay based on your good habits. And if you have good habits, we think that you're going to continue those good habits, inclusive of taking on debt to start your business. So no problem there.
For a startup, would you recommend on starting in coaching or go directly the loan process if you already have a business plan?
That's a good question. My recommendation is to take the free coaching, to think through the smartest way to secure and then deploy scarce, valuable dollars, right? So there's no harm, I suppose, in applying for a loan for sure. And as long as you've got a really healthy track record of repayment, like we've been talking about here, you'll be able to secure the financing. But then you got to make sure you're using it effectively so you can pay it back on time. And I think it's probably a healthy practice to schedule a session with a community business ally first, just to talk through what you've done so far in getting your business going. And we'll just sort of ask, after we listen carefully to that, a series of probing questions about other things that you might want to make sure that you've gotten done. So are you legally structured properly? Your insurance in place, business bank accounts, financial statements, and so forth. We can help you through all of that so that you get all that work done before you have any additional debt to repay. When you have all that work done and then you take on the new debt, you're already in a better position to be able to use that money effectively to make it more likely that it's easier to repay, right? Rather than have the clock be ticking already where you've got monthly payments due while you're still figuring out how to put the proper structure in place for the business and start generating real revenues. So I would suggest the coaching first, although that's not required.
Do your services apply to people who have to start from scratch due to the recent pandemic, but have previously owned successful businesses in the past? Does that process look any different?
Yeah, great question. For loans up to $25,000, the process does not look any different at all. Because if, particularly during the pandemic, you were able to make all of your debt payments on time, and you still have availability on the existing lines in order to describe those three things you're looking for, no bankruptcies, no late pays, and at least 25% availability in your credit lines, we're going to invest in you. And you've shown that you know how to manage money effectively. So we think on that basis, you're a good credit risk and that you know how to manage money and you'll manage your money effectively over the next 2 years for this loan too. If you're looking for more than $25,000, that'll be obviously a more involved conversation, because then we'll need to just have a conversation with you about how much of the financials of the previous business are still relevant for the new business. And if it's a complete clean break, different industry, different everything, then we'll treat the new business appropriately as a startup, because it will be. If it's essentially the same business, but it's just a new location or new brand or something like that, where the old business, because of the pandemic, either failed or was closed or whatever happened with that due to social distancing perhaps, and now you're starting anew, it'll just depend, I think, on how closely those two are linked as to whether it'd be appropriate for us to use the previous financials as part of our evaluation of the new business, and therefore whether we would characterize that as a startup or an existing business. So it'll kind of be situation specific in that way.
And if you don't mind, Brad, I will take the next question. It's relating to business licensing. So we are still processing business licenses, City of Chicago business licenses. I will put the website in the chat box, but it's chicagobusinessdirect.org, and business licenses with an expiration date between March 15th, 2020 and June 15, 2021 are considered active until July 15th of this year. Also, licenses will have until July 15th to renew without paying a late fee. And all that information can be found on the website. So I will post that shortly. And next question for you, Brad, is if your business was established in a different state and is recently being filed in Illinois, in order to do business out of both states, can you still utilize all of your services?
Yes. So provided that you have a business location in Illinois or Indiana, and you're applying for coaching services, you're applying for licensing services, loans, whatever it might be, from your Illinois location, then that certainly works for us.
The next question is, any additional options for women-owned businesses? And does it make a difference if it's nonprofit or private? Any difference in interest rates for the above criteria?
We provide the very best that we can for absolutely every small business owner that we serve. As I've mentioned several times, our target market, like the mission that we focus on, and those have been long underserved, and that could be Black or Hispanic businesses, women businesses, low-income entrepreneurs, those who have traditionally been left behind by other services. So we provide the best prices to all of those folks, all of our services, most of which are free except for the loan interest you pay it on to take out debt. And so while there's no kind of preferential pricing, preferential in the queue services for women, just know that that's the core mission, and therefore everything we're doing is specific to that. Now, there's one thing that is in fact only for women-owned businesses, and that is in partnership with a particular foundation we work with called the Tory Burch Foundation, where in isolated cases, we do have opportunities to have what essentially turns into an interest rate buy down take place from that foundation. So we're always on the lookout for opportunities like that, but the criteria is quite specific on that. And so it's sort of a nice, pleasant surprise at the at the closing table for those businesses for whom we're able to provide that. We're always hoping to do so, but it doesn't happen that often, so we don't actively promote it in that way. But we're eager to use that resource wherever we can for specifically women-owned businesses. Generally, though, all of our services are available to all of those who are within that target market that I described it.
Are all stages of the coaching process free?
Yes, always.
Nice and simple response there.
Yeah.
When a new business is applying for a loan to purchase an existing business, what documents are needed? A bank loan was considered, but the bank felt the existing business returns made investing risky.
It's a really good question. So if we presume that the amount that you're looking for is above $25,000, and therefore we're talking about here is a loan in the range of $25,000 to $100,000, which again is our maximum amount, then in that range, we're looking for the financials of the business that we are underwriting to. And that means that's your business, the acquiring business. And we'll also look at what the net effect will be once the acquisition is complete. So we're not going to look at the business you're looking to buy in isolation on its own and expect that business to essentially underwrite solo, because that puts too much pressure on the financials of that particular business as though your acquiring business doesn't exist. That doesn't make any sense to us. What we'll do is make sure that the combined business that you'll be using this money through is financially stable and strong enough to be able to handle the additional debt that you'll take on. And so we'll look at the financials in that way. And I think that that's the most appropriate balanced way to do so, because it certainly is looking at your ability to make the two businesses together really work without putting you under additional debt that is going to be very difficult to repay if that other business plus your business don't have a sound enough foundation in order to make those repayments. So that's the way we'll try to make the middle ground.
Next question is, once I have my business license, can I immediately apply for a loan?
Absolutely. And in fact, you can even do those things in parallel, provided that you're looking for $25,000 or less. So I think there are multiple steps that are required in order to secure a business license and whatever permits are necessary. And it kind of depends on which industry you're in as to exactly what's required for that. We're learning a lot about this process, by the way, as a regional business center in the run up to March 1st, being able to provide this licensing service from our site. But I think there have been cases in which it was really advantageous for the business to have both the financing and the licensing come together at the same time, so that right away, as soon as the license is secured, you can start generating revenue. Now, I wouldn't want to advise that you have too much of a gap there between taking on the debt and getting the license, because you're paying on the debt before you're generating revenue, because you need the license to generate revenue. So there's a tricky timing question. But just know that working in parallel is fine, so long as you don't have too much time in which you're paying the debt without being able to generate revenue to pay the debt, because that's not really a smart business thing to do. But yes, doing them in parallel is fine.
Could a group of individuals work together to collectively show fiscal responsibility, or is this only for individuals?
That's a good question. And it also reminds me to get back to the question about for-profit versus nonprofit. Mm-hmm. So we're going to be doing underwriting based on the ownership interest of a business. So we talk about like for-profit business first, not nonprofits. The way that we think about this is that we want to make sure that, one, anybody who applies for a loan who has at least some degree of ownership in a business is able to do so. But two, any business that is being sort of used as the basis for someone to take on debt and has majority owners, those majority owners have visibility to what other people are doing for that business. because we don't want to put any sort of business owner in a position in which they didn't realize somebody else was taking on debt on behalf of a business that they have ownership in. So here's how this works. The group of people are working together on a particular business entity. We're going to be underwriting the business, right? So the single employee identification number we file tax returns under, say, for example, just as a unifying that. The applicant, who's the person who's filling out the loan application, who we're primarily reviewing, is going to be the first person that we're seeking to evaluate. Anyone who has at least 50% ownership of the business, that person will also need to be a part of the loan application as a co-applicant, because we think that's only fair for that majority owner. I shouldn't say at least 50%. What I should have said is whoever has the majority ownership, whoever has the largest share, even if it's not the applicant, doesn't have to be 50%, but whoever has the largest share of ownership. And in addition, so those people have to be fully on the loan. We'll evaluate those people fully because they have the say in how the business runs because of that ownership, that largest majority ownership. In addition, anybody who has at least 20% ownership should at least sign for the loan. And we're going to look through all their financials. We're going to have to do all that if they're not the majority owner or the applicant. But we want to make sure they're aware of what's happening in that business. So that's how we typically deal with situations in which you've got a group of people who all have a particular shared interest, and there's debt being taken out on behalf of the business for which they have that shared interest. So that's what we do on the private sector side. That's fairly typical and common, right? We just try to do that in a really automated, easy to manage way because we're using automated email notification and things like that in order to get all of the applicants who are required to be on the loan. Now, nonprofits are different. In the case of a for-profit business, we're looking for just a personal guarantee, no collateral, but a personal guarantee on behalf of the business owner. Pretty standard stuff, right? But a nonprofit doesn't have a business owner, and therefore the only difference really in the way that we use underwriting for a nonprofit versus a for-profit, all the rules are the same, but in place of having the owner who's applying just put a personal guarantee behind the loan that they're taking out, given that there is no personal guarantee on behalf of an owner because there's no owner in the case of a nonprofit. We would then just look for the personal guarantee to come from the executive director or board chair or somebody who has a fiduciary role in the organization. That's really the only difference. Otherwise, we treat nonprofits in the same way that we treat for-profits, where we're evaluating the applicants and the financials of the organization. So hopefully that clarifies how we look at groups of people in different circumstances who are all sort of party to a particular business, whether it be for-profit or nonprofit.
Good. If you don't mind, Brad, again, I'm going to answer a licensing question. It is, do all businesses require a license from the city of Chicago? And the answer is no, some do not need. It depends on the profession. Real estate brokers, psychologists, landscape architects, other architectural services. And you could actually find the list of license exemptions on our website at chicago.gov/BACP. And if you click on the licensing icon, it will take you to all the information about City of Chicago licensing. And I will post that in the chat box. Next question is, if we prefer to raise our own funds instead of going for a loan, would your organization help organize a strategy for presenting ideas as a viable business potential to the public?
Absolutely. We consider that to be pretty core business coaching. And so again, that'll all be free, and you can just schedule a session to work with one of our business coaches in order to do that kind of presentation preparation. And we've done a fair bit of that in the past. Really, we're agnostic as to whether or not we're coaching businesses that happen to also provide a loan or a grant to. We just want to provide as much help as possible to as many good businesses as we can.
Can you explain what collaboration entrepreneurship means?
Yes, so what we're trying to highlight here are the services that we provide that we don't do on our own. So the three primary services here, again, the kitchen space, which we provide in partnership with our joint venture partner, ICNC, that's the Industrial Council of Near West Chicago. The licensing services we provide are in partnership with the City of Chicago, of course. And the procurement services we provide are in partnership with both the city and the county and the state, depending on which licensing regime you want to get your certification through, and also with the buyers. So we don't buy service, well, we do occasionally, but we don't really have a big purchasing budget because of our size, but universities, hospitals, big purchasers like that, we have great partnerships with. So we try to make connections between the businesses that we serve and those bigger institutions are looking to buy from those businesses. We can't do all those three things on our own. And so we characterize those differently than the services that we uniquely provide in the form of the capital and the coaching that are sort of self-contained within our organization.
What kind of credit score are you looking for to qualify or loan, or do you consider that?
We don't care what your credit score is. Now, in the past, we've always said that we don't have a minimum credit score, but we're still using the credit score in order to place you in our former tier underwriting process where we take a series of factors and put people into a bucket and then evaluate them on that basis. We're just not doing that anymore. And I'll just spend a minute talking about why that is. First, it makes me uncomfortable to just use some other organization's black box score that we can't see. And if we have all the data anyway, directly through the interface that we built to the credit bureaus, why not just use it rather than rely on somebody else to do all the calculations and tell us who's a good credit risk individual? Second reason is that particularly with medical debt, where somebody gets sick, like that's not an indicator to us as to whether or not that they have good repayment habits. That's an indicator to us that they got sick. So once you're better, I don't care if that wrecked your credit. Like, what does that mean to us? Nothing. We want to know whether people have good habits, and we can read that directly from the credit reports without regard to looking at a credit score that might have been wrecked because you had a bankruptcy that was specific to a medical issue you couldn't pay. So we go underneath the credit score rather than use the credit score and go right to the data and try to evaluate people on the basis of just what their habits are rather than just, frankly, use the lazy way out and take a single number and evaluate people on that basis. So we don't use that number at all, and that's the logic behind it.
Can real estate investors use the loans?
Depends what you're using the money for. So we have on our site just the list of the industries that we don't lend to. It's the usual list for the most part. If you're doing a community development project where you need working capital in order to finish a development and the money is meant to just finance that development, it's no problem at all. Of course, happy to help. If what you're doing is using our funds in order to flip a property and your ability to repay us is contingent upon being able to flip that to somebody who will pay more than you paid, that's the kind of loan we're not going to be particularly keen to make. So it kind of depends on which style of real estate development you're doing because there's a very, very different risk profile associated with one versus the other.
Are there exemptions with loans and grants for startups that deal with CBD products?
We have no such like prohibitions, exemptions, anything like that for the loans that we do. The only, since you mentioned loans and grants, I'll say that again, similar to what we were talking about before with respect to undocumented applicants, if we're using federal funds in partnership with, say, a state or a city or a county government, and those federal funds carry with them prohibitions of one sort or another because of the way that the enacting legislation is written, then we have to abide by those prohibitions in order to not break the law. But other than that, we've got no problem in serving cannabis businesses of any kind, CBD or otherwise.
Next question. I don't live in the city of Chicago currently, but I have done nonprofit work in the city. I am interested in establishing my new venture on the west side of Chicago. Would I still be able to access your services?
Yeah, first of all, we serve all of Illinois and Indiana. So whether or not you're inside or outside of the city of Chicago is irrelevant to us. Now we have a particular focus on the south and west sides of Chicago, but not to the full exclusion of any other area in our two states. So no problem there. In addition to that, I think we are really interested in where the business is located. And so provided that you're trying to run a business on the west side of Chicago, of course, happy to work with you whenever we can.
All right, I currently do not see any additional questions coming through. We'll give people a couple minutes. Brad, do you have any additional words about the services?
No, I think we may have nailed it spot on 4 o'clock though. It's pretty good.
Yeah, absolutely. Do not see any extra questions. Can you provide your contact information, Brad, to those who may think of questions after our webinar?
Yes, good point. Sorry, I should have thought of that. So 2 ways. So I can give you my email address directly, but know that if you're looking not just for a one-off answer from me, but rather you're looking for like a proper session with one of our community business allies, use the schedule a session button, which is right there on our homepage or various other places. It's also in the top navigation, connect with us. So that'll push you directly into the calendar in which you get like a detailed one-on-one discussion rather than just a response to an email. So anyway, my email address is bmcconnell, so that's B MCCONNL at a4cb.org. I suppose the smarter way to do that would have been put that in the chat. I'll do that now.
Oh, it's fine. I'm putting it in there.
Okay.
No worries.
I don't know why I just did that. Sorry.
And there it is for everyone.
There you go.
And the new website is just listed right there, but I'll put it in the chat, A4CB. And there it is for everyone. All right. And we have one last question, and then we will conclude. How soon can we apply, and what is the turnaround time for approval?
You can apply for either free coaching or a loan right this second. The coaching turnaround is basically whatever time you select on the calendar that you're prompted to populate based on your own time constraints. The loans are at the moment running about, actually kind of depends. So we just launched 2 weeks ago today, to be precise, now I look at the calendar. And so we got a huge queue of people who are applying because we got that sort of new balance. It's great. We're working through those now. Typically, we'll have a 24-hour turnaround time where either you're eligible or you aren't on that step 1 if you're looking for under $25,000. And then if you're going to step 2 because you didn't pass those 3 criteria in step 1 and you're asked to provide us with further financial information, it just depends on how fast you provide us those documents or the rights to go pull that data on your behalf. And how fast we can turn around those. And again, we'll typically turn around that for 24 hours too, depending on how fast you provide us what we require. As we sit at the moment, we're running in about a week in order to catch up with that huge backlog that we generated in the first 4 or 5 business days. So we'll be much faster soon, but we've got quite a bit of work to do to clean up on that big, huge initial rush. So that gives you a sort of sense of expectation we're working through here. And it really does depend on whether you meet that sort of step 1 criteria where we'll move that fast, or whether there's more work to do because you didn't meet all those criteria and you need to move to the further steps in order to provide us with the financial information we require.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much. Once again, the website is posted in the chat box. Everything that Brad covered today is easily found on the website, including how to schedule one-on-one, more information about loans and grants available. So I do want to say, Brad, thank you so much for joining us and, letting people know about your recent rebrand and launch. So thank you.
Certainly happy to help. Most importantly, thank you to all of the business owners who continue to run really good businesses, particularly through the worst business climate any of us have seen in our lifetimes. Mm-hmm. And we're eager to keep helping those who are either starting businesses or who are continuing to run good businesses, so that then when we can all get back together again, when demand in the economy starts to return in force, that our community businesses are there to take full advantage of it. So we're really appreciative of the opportunity to serve all of you as a mission-driven nonprofit. I'm really thankful for BACP to give us the opportunity to share it today.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Thank you to all of our attendees. We wish you the best of luck. Thank you.